begin. Meeting is not streaming live. Okay, fine, we're live. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you are enjoying your first days of summer. As most schools are, private schools at least, are out of session already, and everyone's swinging into gear for summer and summer programming. Here at the Safra, we are at the Edmund J. Safra Synagogue. We are also in gear with lots of interesting classes and programming throughout the summer. Find out about everything on our website or email us at info@ejsny.org and we'll send you the information. We are in the middle of the book of Proverbs, King Solomon's book of infinite wisdom. And we left off last week at verse number 10. We spoke about how we are at a point where King Solomon is going to do contrasting between different ideas so that we could walk away with some kind of clarity. So he says like this, he says, he who winks, koretz ayin yiten etzvat va'avios v'tayim yilavet. He who winks his eye causes grief, and he who talks foolishly will be weary, will be tired. Right? So who is this person winking at? What is this idea of the winker? Okay, so he says that the winker is someone who's trying to entice someone else to do something that is bad, right? Like, for example, by winking at a married woman, he's trying to entice her, I'm not sure if that really works these days, but I guess back then that was what you did. You wink to entice someone to do something that was bad. Winking was always somehow correlated to doing something that was wicked. By winking to a married woman, he's going to cause sadness to the husband. Okay, so he who winks his eye causes sadness. Now, there's so much to speak about this. The Malbim, in a nutshell, says that the pasuk is referring to someone who observes the commandments, but always has some kind of, skepticism and doubts. He's always, that kind of a wink, and that's going to bring him sorrow. Different ways of understanding it. But here he continues, okay, and he says as follows. He says, Makor Chaim Pi Tzaddik, the mouth of the righteous is the Makor Chaim, the source of life, the fountain of life. Upi Rishaim Yichaseh Hamas, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Okay, so here you have, again, this contrast that we were speaking about. So what is he saying over here? He's saying like this: the mouth of the righteous is the source of life. Shlomo Melech is consistently speaking about Torah and wisdom, the Torah and the mitzvot. They are the lifeblood and the source of all vitality to all that need him. Since the tzaddik teaches others to study Torah and perform the mitzvot, his words are a source of life to all. But the mouth of the wicked, right, they speak smoothly and slyly because their intentions are always nefarious. They're always thinking, plotting. Nothing they say is ever straight. It's always got some kind of an angle. And that is not what you and I, when you meet people that are talking to you in a not straight way, the second you sense something a little off, you make sure you're paying close attention because you're about to get bamboozled or hoodwinked with something that you're not going to be happy with. But someone who is a righteous person, they're always straight. They're always yashar. Everything they're saying makes sense. It's clear. There's nothing concealed about what they're saying. They're straight talkers. But over here, Makor Chaim Pi Tzaddik, the mouth of the righteous is one who is the source of life. Because everything he says, it brings us closer to understanding what it is we're meant to walk away from our lives. But the Rasha, Pi Rashaim Yichaseh Hamas, the mouth of the wicked, he's always concealing his violence, his evil intent, because it sounds very smooth, looks very smooth, but in reality, it's super difficult to fully appreciate and understand. Okay, so let's keep going. I would like to do 10 verses today. Makor Chaim, it says, Sinat to'orer medagim va'al pi peshaim techaseh ahava. Hatred, it brings up quarrels, but love, my friends, covers all transgressions. Okay, so again, you have this contrast, right? Love covers all transgressions. Sinat to'orer medanim, right? This hatred, it brings up this strife, right? So when there is a pre-existing animosity, even trifle things become a cause for irritability and quarrels. When a person has a petty falling out with someone, he's not going to react off the cuff in his relationship. But if another minor conflict comes up, that dormant grudge may re-emerge itself and provoke him to react totally out of proportion to the present dispute. Those of you that are married or in intense relationships completely understand what we're talking about over here. Sometimes we see something, we don't say something, and then like we ignore it, and then something else comes out, and that resurfaces that old emotion that we tucked away, and boom, massive explosion. Okay, but when there is love between two people, right, deep love between two people, even if one seriously wrongs the other, that other person will overlook it and not take offense. This concept of love superseding the negative emotion is a very deep psychological one. There's someone by the name of John M. Gottman, who's from who created the John Gottman Institute of Marriage and Relationships. The guy's a genius. He can sit with a couple in 5 minutes and tell you if they'll be divorced in 7 years. He has a 95% accuracy rate. Okay, he's John Mordechai Gottman. He's an Orthodox Jew from Seattle. And what he says is like this, and this is why I tell people, take advantage of every moment in time. He says that when you look at couples, everyone fights, but some fights lead to divorces and some don't. And he tried to understand why. And what he found was like this: the people who got into fights, but whose relationships were consistently built on negative memories, those relationships always ended. But people who have fights, people who get into trouble, but their relationship is built on positive memories. The positive memories color everything negative that you're dealing with right now. So if everything you're dealing with right now is built on positive memories, the negativity, you'll overcome it. But if it's consistent negative, okay, it's very hard to ignore the negativity you're in right now. And therefore, even if you had positivity in your relationship, eventually it would switch into something completely different. Okay, this is a very deep lesson. You have an opportunity at every single moment in time to go ahead and work on creating positive memories, to create positive, a positive canvas in your mind's eye, so that when strife and hardship comes, you'll always fall back on this positive, clean canvas. If you don't have that, God forbid, it's all negative, it's all broken, it's all filled with sadness, then that colors everything in your relationship. And I think that's exactly what he's saying over here. Al kol peshaim techaseh ahava. But love covers all transgressions, right? That, this kind of a relationship, when there's that kind of love and understanding, everything that looks bad is forgotten. Everything that seems off is completely colored. Now, this could be a good thing and a bad thing. Right? It's a bad thing if you're in a relationship that doesn't have commitment. So people that are not in a married relationship, having this level of commitment, of where the love conceals all that is bad, is a very bad thing, right? I speak to groups all the time, especially young people that are just thinking of getting married, and I tell them that if you're in a relationship that's not selfish before you get married, you're in trouble. Selflessness should be something that is achieved only after marriage. But before I have that commitment, I don't want my daughters or my sons being in a relationship where they're going to give 100% to that person. I want there to be an element of selfishness. I want them to be thinking about their own wants and needs first. And then only when they see this person actually has the ability to be committed to them, and they can be critical about who they are and know that they're actually going to be the partner that's going to be providing and supporting and giving and so on and so forth, then you can go ahead and make that relationship into something more, and have the commitment of marriage evolve it into something bigger. Then you could go ahead and allow the love to cover all your transgressions. Before that, you're getting yourself in trouble. Okay, so he continues. He says, "B'siftei navon timtzech chacham, b'shevet lagav chasar lev." Wisdom is found in the lips of the understanding, but the rod is for the one who is devoid of all sense. Okay, so I think that's easy. The lips of an understanding one, that's where you're going to find wisdom. When an understanding one is rebuked, when someone who has chokhmah, someone who is navon, who has depth and understanding, right? When when he's rebuked for his wrongdoings, he admits it, right? When the prophet Natan chastises David Hamelech for taking Bathsheba, what does David say? I sinned against God. He admits it immediately. But shevet legav chaser leh. But a rod must be used on the back, of one who lacks understanding. Someone who has a lacking chaser lev. Someone who's lacking, who doesn't have a understanding heart. That person ignores the rebuke, right? Unless he's forced to listen, like Paro. Paro ignored Moses' warnings until he was struck by the 10 plagues, and then finally he opened up. This is a very big musar for parents. Some kids, not all kids are the same. And just because you have one approach for one kid doesn't mean you have to use the same approach for the other kid. There's some kids who are super sharp at understanding, other kids who are really good kids, but they're not as sharp at understanding. I'm not saying you should take out the rod and beat it into them. I'm just saying the approach has to be different. That's his point over here. That what works for one may not work for the other, and therefore have clarity with who you're dealing with. Don't have a party line that works for everybody. Figure out who it is you're trying to give direction to, and then based on what they need, instruct them with the direction you're trying to give, right? Okay, so he continues and he says as follows: Chachamim yitzpenu dat upi avil mechitat kroval. Wise men store up knowledge, but the mouth of the fool causes destruction to come near, right? What does it mean that wise men store knowledge, right? What does that mean that the wise stores knowledge? Now, the wise, they guard their knowledge. They guard their knowledge in their heart. They watch over it. They don't want it to be forgotten, which means they commit it to memory. Someone who is serious about his learning is someone who is consistently going over the things that he or she has learned. Okay, that's what it means that their knowledge is in their heart. They're consistently memorizing. They're working through the ideas. They're internalizing it. To hear a class is good. Even better, take the notes and internalize it and make it your information, not somebody else. I heard once a long time ago, someone just said, no. At some point, you could transition the information from what you're hearing outside of yourself into something that ultimately becomes a part of you. It's your wisdom. It's not my wisdom, because I'm just sharing what someone else said, right? King Solomon's wisdom. King Solomon's wisdom is not his wisdom. It's the wisdom that he got from his Mesorah, and he's imparting it to the next generation. At some point, you could take these ideas and allow it to flow through your heart and your bloodstream, and this is how it becomes you. You become the guardian of this information. You become the guardian of this wisdom. The wise people understand that knowledge is the key to all success in life. But the mouth of the fool, right? The mouth of the fool brings destruction. Mechitat karva, he brings all kinds of destruction to himself. He lacks the discretion and speaks without consideration, right? He does things that are out of sequence. He's unclear. He's lost. Fools say whatever comes to their minds. A fool just says, he just opens his mouth. He doesn't pull back. There's no boundaries. He's always making a mistake, right? And their conversations are peppered with all kinds of, lashon hara and derogatory, information, bad advice, slander, and so on and so forth. You want to stay away from those people. Hon ashir kiryat uzo, mechitat dalim resham. The wealth of the rich, hon ashir kiryat uzo, the wealth of the rich is the city of his uzo, his strength. Mechitat dalim resham. The destruction of the poor is their poverty, right? This is an interesting idea over here. So the rich man's wealth is his city of strength, right? Why? Because his wealth protects him, and he feels fortified by it, right? It safeguards him. The wealth over here refers to is not the dollars in your bank or the cryptocurrencies that are currently tanking, right? Or the stock market, which is not sure if it's going up or going down. I see the people shaking their head. It's not tanking, but it's tanking just for now. So we have good buying opportunity, people, if you're buying crypto. Now's a good time to cost average in. So this rich man's wealth is his citadel of strength, right? It's his city of strength. because we're not talking about money over here. We're really talking about the wealth over here. It talks about his Torah knowledge. That's what Rashi learns it. Not talking about money. Money, again, is important. Money is a tool to enable you to become the best version of you. Money is not the goal. Money is a tool. The goal is for you to become a bigger person. But poverty is the destruction of the poor. To the failure to engage in Torah study is their undoing, right? According to Rabbi Yonah, he says both halves of the verse describe a misperceptions, right? The rich trust that their wealth is going to protect them, but the poor are frightened about their poverty. But both are wrong. Your wealth's not going to protect you, and poverty is not going to be your ruin. True security is measured by, ready, drum roll, your good deeds. True security is based on what you do. The poor shouldn't be concerned. They shouldn't lose hope because of their poverty, as long as they are righteous. And this goes into the next verse over here, right? Pu'ulat tzaddik l'chaim, tuvat rasha l'chatat. The act of the righteous is for life, but that of the wicked is for sin. The deed of the righteous person, it brings life. Whether someone is performing a mitzvah or earning money, it could earn him the true life. Business pursuits are lofty, important goals, provided that one conducts himself without resorting to sinful means. Right? Having a business that is based on lying, cheating, stealing is a bad thing. And so, if one intends to obtain the resources by an evil way, not good. But if he intends to obtain his resources to make him a better person, to serve God, to become a better father, better community member, you're blessed, right? The deeds of a righteous person brings him life. You do good, your reward is life. What kind of life? Good life, Chaim Tovim. But by building the temple, Shlomo Melech brought life to Israel. He used his money to bring God to the world, and therefore he enabled them to achieve atonement. He enabled them to have a relationship with the Almighty. He used his resources as a tool, not as a goal, even though he made his mistakes. Tuvat rasha l'chatat, but the produce of the wicked, that's for sin. The profit of a wicked person are instruments for evil, for sinful lives. But those who are individuals that hate, right, righteousness, right? The individuals who are only interested in their sinful desires, right? This is telling us that when a person chooses righteousness, all of his actions are for life and has nothing to do with fear. Meaning, so often we're so afraid of doing what is right because I don't know what the consequences are going to be. And we're saying, forget about that for a minute. You want to live a life of good, of Chaim Tovim, just do what is right, my friend. It's not that difficult. Just do what is true. The deeds of the wicked cause their lives to be shortened. They think they're going to get it right now. I'm going to do this sketchy deal on the side. No, comes back and haunts them, right? You do what is good. You do what is righteous, and you will find yourself living a life of Chaim, Pulat Tzaddik L'Chaim. Forget about tzaddik as the rabbi who's sitting and learning. Tzaddik over here means the guy who is doing what's tzedek, what is righteous, what the right thing to do. Tzedek tishbo. We're talking about that kind of tzaddik over here. Do what you're meant to do. Be a tzaddik. Anyone can be a tzaddik. Just do good. Do what is righteous. Orach l'chaim shomer musar v'ozev tochachat mata'eh. The way of life is to keep. The way of life is if one keeps musar, which is discipline, v'ozev tochachat matea. But he who forsakes his musar, right, misleads, right? He misleads himself and others. So, what is he saying over here? One who is listening to discipline, right? That is a orach l'chaim shomer musar. One who listens to musar and lives a correctful life, right? And he's going to find himself, in a great place because he's used the musar, right? This chastisement, right? The word musar comes from the word yisurim, which means affliction, which may be either, self-imposed from others, or one that you do to yourself. But the hardship when you endure by fighting the Yetzer Hara, that brings life into the world to come. That gives us the power, the grit needed to overcome the challenges we find ourselves in to become greater individuals. One who abandons the musar, he goes astray, he goes off the derech, he's off. He leads both himself and everyone around him off because he's not interested in creating a world of boundaries. He wants to live in a world where he does whatever he wants to do. My friends, this is the time of the year where we're meant to be working on our musar. We're meant to be working on our character development. We're meant to be working on being the best versions of ourselves. One who conceals hatred has lying lips, right? But one who utters diba, one who utters slander, right? Huksiel, he is a fool. So a flatterer lies. A flatterer conceals hatred in his heart. But one who harbors hatred in his heart causes another transgression. He lies in order to appear as a friend. Omotzi diva huksiel, but one who utters slander is a fool. Someone who does not conceal his hatred, but expresses it by slandering a friend and causing him to be the subject of people's conversation will find himself to be considered a fool. Because one who finds faults with others is only projecting on them his own flaws. That's just the way it works. We speak about the things that we ourselves are concerned with. Ubaro dvarim lo yachdel pesha. In abundance of words, offensiveness will not be lacking. One who talks too much brings sin. People who feel that they should talk consistently will inevitably offend others or say things that are going to get them in trouble because they don't give thought to what they say. But one who restrains his lips, right? Right? He darkens his lips. Maskil, he's wise. And the Midrash explains that Shlomo HaMelech doesn't suggest that a person must always be silent. We're not talking about never, always darkening your lips, but rather he should take care to refrain from speaking about other people. The Chavetz Chaim urges that people should think of their words, think of their speech, think like a telegram, for where every minute, every word that you utter, you're going to be charged for. Everything you say has value and meaning. It has an impact. Kesef, nechbar, lashon, tzaddik, the tongue of the righteous person is like silver. The words of people who know how to give musar are precious. Those people who know how to give you the truth in a positive way without being harsh or embarrassing are like refined gold and silver. Right? Sensible people who are interested in growth, people who are interested in development, people who are interested in constructive criticism are looking for these kinds of relations. They want to find people that are going to give them this kind of advice. They're not looking to hide in this world, right? The person who has a deep moral desire to be great, it's reflected in his speech. You know when a person is a good person based on the way they speak. Right? These people are not flippant, they're not abrasive, they're calm, they're patient, they're giving, they're understanding, they're measured, right? They're well thought out and they're refined. But lev reshaim kimat, but the heart of the wicked is minute. Why? Because they don't hear the rebuke of the righteous. Now, the Tanchuma gives an example. He says that when the prophet Ido gave Yeravam ben Navat, right, musar for his idol worship, the king raised his hand to strike the prophet. I'm going to smack this guy. I don't want to hear what he has to say, right? So, and what happens? As he tries to hit the prophet, the Navi, his hand becomes paralyzed. Regardless, Yeravam, what does he do? He ignores the musar. And with the chutzpah, what does he do? He goes to Ido and he says, pray to God, pray to your God. Right? And it doesn't say his God. It says, you go pray to your God to fix my hand. And once his hand is healed, what do he do? He continues to worship Avodah Zarah. Right? We're talking about sometimes people just can't hear the musar. Those people, they are evil, and you want to stay away from them. So kesef Nivchar v'lashon tzadik lev Hashem kim'at. The tongue of the righteous is like silver, but the heart of the wicked is worth very, very little, right? Because nothing you could say will move them. Nothing you could say will go ahead and keep them in a space where they could accomplish the things they're meant to accomplish. Ultimately, my friends, what is the function of the Torah? The word Torah, I'll say it 1,000 times. The word Torah means instruction life, instructions, horai. Torah comes from the word hora'ah, which means instructions. For what? Lechaim, for life. How do you have a good life? Just do good. That's it. Be good. And you will find yourself living a life of blessing. Thank you so much for tuning in today. God willing, we'll pick up and finish chapter 10 next week. If you have any questions, I'll take them now. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your lovely, lovely day. Take care, guys. Thanks so much for coming.